What is up? We are live. It is Sunday morning, and I woke up to some interesting events this morning. Let me just go to this. Joe Rogan had of course, he's so into UFOs, so he wants to have, a wide variety of knowledgeable experts on to get a varied and complete and contrasting opinion on the subject of UFOs. From people like myself, who I have a bachelor's degree in physics, and I've been researching this for like 20 years, and but he has not made any attempt to reach out to the skeptics, even though Mick West has been on Joe Rogan in the past. Mick West has been very outspoken on Twitter and other websites about Bob Lazar and other subjects. He will not, have Mick West on, or any of these guys. He's not entertained a lot of Mick West's. Mick West has written to him, and they've been ignoring him as of late on a lot of this stuff. I think because Mick put his foot in his mouth with a lot of the other stuff, that's come out now with all the Pentagon and other aviation experts and other people that are, a lot of physicists are having a serious debate, even at the top levels of science now, as a result of this, which is, it needs to happen, and it's good to happen. And more people need to be exposed to the real science of it, though, because not a lot of people, including, Michio Kaku, aren't getting the full picture. He just thinks this is about, U.S. Navy pilots seeing things on their radar, and doesn't realize there have been a 40-year cover up of technologies and stuff. Some of it revolving around the same people who, speak out about counterintelligence on the show and talk about, CIA, the Church Committee, and other projects like that. He clearly watches my show, because these are all things that I talked about and showed on a recent broadcast that he brought up 2 days ago on Corbell. Corbell brought up 2 days ago on Joe Rogan, this interview. I'm going to play a couple select parts, though, from this 14-minute clip. There's a much longer interview, and I want to go through that, actually, and dissect that a little bit, because I've already gone through this 14-minute clip and found a number of things I wanted to point out. First off, I want to give a shout-out to Veritasium on this, another excellent video that their channel posted. And this was a video on the 4 things it takes to be an expert. Very cool channel. That's Veritasium is this guy right here on the left. And people have seen him before. That's the dude. Veritasium. This guy memorized pi out to like 23,000 digits. It's like amazing. He's trying to compete for the world record, because he's like, oh well, I could probably do this. Kind of how my brain works, so why don't I try to do that? And it's great. It's kind of a useless thing in the long run. It's not really applicable or actionable to, you can't really do anything with that other than compete. And it's not like, but it's still pretty crazy, nonetheless. But it talks about the 4 things it takes to be an expert, and I'll give you a quick spoiler alert. Number 1 was repeated attempts with feedback. Number 2 was a valid environment. Number 3 was timely feedback. And number 4 is don't get too comfortable, because of the randomness of everything. So Corbell, in these recent interviews, it's been, the feedback has been, Joe Rogan not listening to anyone and just keeping on having Corbell back on the show. So there's literally been no feedback in that loop system at all. So that eliminates 2 of those. Don't get too comfortable. Well, Corbell's really quite comfortable with his, it comes off quite cocky and comfortable with his knowledge of and his expertise on Bob Lazar, and how Bob Lazar knows so much about physics and propulsion and science and all this, when in reality he's shared nothing with us but the element 115 thing, which, as many of you know, the element 115 stuff comes from the May 1989 issue of Scientific American magazine, from page 62, on an article on creating superheavy elements, where it mentions whole island of stability, element 114, element 115, and that range where they feel like there was an isotope where there might be this island of stability. Of course, that doesn't mean it's stable enough to be long-lasting metal. I mean, most of the things in this high end of the periodic table just decay almost immediately and are only made in particle accelerators under controlled conditions for a very brief amount of time. But that would be amazing if there was a stable isotope of element 115 and it did have anti-gravity properties. But as far as the scientific community is concerned, there's numerous sources, including quite a few other ones that I've linked to on Twitter. If you go to my Twitter account and search for element 115, I have tons and tons of research that I've posted there, just things I've found by digging. So many people in the past have discovered element 150, or they knew about these super heavy elements or predicted this island of stability. It was seen and predicted in way back, by these scientists. And I have a whole history of bibliography for anyone that wants to waste hours and hours of time on intelligence that has never proven to be actionable. We go over so much more actionable intelligence on the channel and we talk about real technologies and the real research. Let's get into some of that. Another thread here from Reddit with more Corbell disinformation. It says, screenshots from a newspaper article Corbell showed to Rogan from Alamogordo, New Mexico, September 29th, 1960, describe a cube enclosed in a sphere UFO. Some UFO pilots described today was seen. So the same UFO that these pilots that they're saying we're seeing 62 years ago, which proves it can't be ours. So everything's true up until this comma at the last and the last two, the last sentence, which proves it can't be ours, Russian or Chinese. So none of this proves that it can't be ours. It just proves that it goes back 62 years ago. In fact, the patent here, which I'll show you, is a U.S. patent number 2,463,517, and it was filed in 1945 and granted in 1949. And they talk about it on the drive under the Tyler Rogaway article here about these radar reflectors. Here's a picture of the patent, and what is that? It's a cube within a sphere. And what is this? This is a radar repeater and reflector technology that was being developed early on by scientists working for the CIA, and literally what was the CIA's Project Rainbow around the time. This big thing I've been talking about. This is what Area 51 was created for, was all this physics research into the recent discovery in 1946 of nuclear magnetic resonance by Edward Mills Purcell, who headed the CIA's program of Project Rainbow. And all this, these radar reflectors and such are part of a much larger field of research within the military electronics warfare technology, and it's called DRFM technology. And DRFM stands for Digital Radio Frequency Memory. So basically it takes a radio frequency, records that radio frequency with a computer, uses, software-defined radio, and breaks down that radio signal with software into a digital signal, and then it has a memory. So computers have memory, so you can literally set your computer up with one of these. People do this with computers now, and they have computers that's when you see those guys in those, I don't know, you see the guys in the FBI surveillance van and like on TV, right? And they have those computers and they're sitting in a van. Well, what those computers are hooked up to is something called software-defined radio, and the software-defined radios are able to hook into electronic waves and pick up signals and record those signals. But before they had computers and all that stuff, this is what they had, and this is what the scientists came up with. It's quite ingenious. The DRFM technology, digital radio frequency memory, these things are recorders and repeaters. That's what they're designed to do, and what pilots might be seeing and might be more advanced versions of these. This is a great idea for, you can you can secure one of these to a buoy and just let it, and float them out there at certain strategic points in your battlefield. And if enemies fly too close and in there, you can use these DRFM technologies to fake all kinds of signals. There's another Project Nemesis that's part of a bigger, so that was part of Project Palladium, those balloons. If people want to look that up. And then Project Nemesis was part of a larger thing where they had grids and of these balloons, which were also functioned as emitters, these DRFM, so they're transmitters, so they're also the receivers and transmitters, so they can pick up signals and then they can bounce those signals back. They pick up signal, they record that signal, and then they can fake that signal and bounce any signal back, and they can fake unique signals which look like radar signals. So all planes are equipped with radar and other types of technologies, and it's these people in the intelligence community at Area 51 within these programs to know how the enemy's MiGs, for example, the Russian MiGs have a radar system, and they need to know how the Russian MiGs radar works so that they can record that signal and then they can bounce it back. So they'll be listening, and they'll be like, oh, this is a MiG, this is, and the CIA knows with a list, they'll be able to say, oh, this is this type of radar system that they're using. So we can spoof it. If we have a bunch of these things bounce back a signal that looks like its own radar signal back, but we fake it out with a new signal, so we can make this thing see whatever the hell we want it to see on radar. And then with these, and that in combination with a lot of this laser technology, which comes from the Star Wars SDI program, and this guy named Lake Marabou at Rensselaer Polytech, Leikmyrabo. He's one of the real scientists, unlike Bob Lazar, who's still under NDA, and we can't even get him for an interview until 2027 when his NDA gets up. But he's the real guy that developed all this stuff at NASA and DARPA, and I guess I don't know who he's got contracts with now, but he can't talk at all. And this technology started with these target discs that they made, and they would blast them with a laser, and then use this laser blast would basically ionize all this air and supercavitate it, which would create this giant push, which would go out the back end of this, which would push this craft the opposite direction with a series of pulses. They would, pulse these flashes to create these supercavitation events in this ring at the base of this this device, and that basically pushes it through the air. And then they said, hey, to hell with a ground-based or why don't we got to put the laser on the craft. There's no way we have to have this thing shining off the ground and have it rely on. What if if birds get in the way, any insects get in the way, they're all getting fried, so it's not safe. It's not, it's not functionable too, because how high they did like test flights on this. And I show those videos. I can bring them up if you want right now. It might take a minute. I don't have them prepped and right here ready, but they're those videos where they show this thing launch, and they did tests with US Navy lasers, and they could only be launched to a certain height, and then they wouldn't go any higher. So the next step they did was to, say, we're going to put the laser on board the craft, and we're going to focus on it on a point in front of the craft right here, and we're going to supercavitate it so hard and so forcefully that it sucks us into this vacuum that's created in front of the craft, and there's no air there, so there's no air resistance. And this same technology is used by the Chinese and the others on hypersonics, hypersonic ICBMs. They're testing these types of missiles right now, and it's the main scare of the Defense Department, and they want to tell everybody, look, be on the lookout for UFOs and this kind of stuff. But in reality, they want you to look out for drone technology that is employing these same types of new age technologies that the Chinese and others, Russians maybe even developing, which are these skin coatings, which were talked about and declassified a little bit in I'm going to be talking about them at the Tesla Tech Conference, which is next week. It's It's Tuesday. I got to get to work and here soon. I just wanted to go live real quick and share some information and talk about this disgrace of a story. I'm going to share this with you, a quick clip, so we can listen to what Joe Rogan actually has to say about this, and I'll just give you a quick synopsis for those of you who can't stand this crap.
Square windows, and he peered in it quickly as he was walking by, and it seemed like there was a small thing that was sitting on a chair, and there's people standing over it, but he doesn't know if it was a doll. He doesn't know if it was, and so in his mind, he's like, "Fuck, did I see an alien? Like, what the fuck?" But he can't go back. It's not like everything's. If you work on top secret stuff, apparently everything's very compartmentalized. Like the people that work on metallurgy don't have access to the people that work on propulsion, that don't have access to the people that, if there is a biological entity, that they examine it.
Which frustrated the fuck out of him, right?
They said that's not how you do science.
It's not how you do science.
Right.
And he says, I wasn't the most qualified person to be there. Maybe they hired me because they could easily dismiss me. He's like,
well, that's what they're saying now.
People on this, people that were more. So he was really frustrated, and he said to me, like, he thought it was a crime against the scientific community. If they have this stuff, like he says, he says it was a crime, and he talks about that thing through the window.
You sir, Jeremey Corbell and Bob Lazar are a crime against the scientific community because you're hogging up airtime. You're teaching the entire younger generation crap. Element 115 leads nowhere. It doesn't lead, nothing. Stuff you talk about leads to any science, and it all leads to you making more money to put in your pocket, which you're not afraid to flaunt with that nice, huge, fat gold watch that's on your wrist in this recent, what is this, your fourth appearance on Joe Rogan? Dude, you're pathetic. Go get a real job. You should be working at Burger King. Your research sucks. You haven't done crap for research. Everything you've said here about element 115 is false. I can prove it with sources. May 1989 Scientific American issue. And I would debate you anytime. If Joe Rogan was a serious host and he's a serious dude, which I'm going to call him out again, just like I called him out when I was on Tim Pool. Dude, get some skeptics on, get Mick West and me on to debate, and get Bob Lazar back on. And the only thing I'll say to give Bob Lazar a little bit of credit, right? Okay, this is another one.
I talked to him multiple times about this, and he did clearance for Bob for the test site. But even more recently, from people that have position to access that information, it was confirmed. I just want you to know, he worked out there. But I have people that were.
So he has people. He can't name these people. He can't source these people. Where are they? I'll tell you who they are. Dr. Krangle is one of the guys, and he doesn't say anything that really directly supports Corbell's story. Corbell twists his words around and uses a lot of Krangle's words, and he did an ambush interview on him, which is pathetic. And the other guy is Mike Thigpen. He won't even name either of these guys in his fourth appearance. Why not? He won't even give the guys' names out. Mike Thigpen was the other one. He says he found the guy on Facebook, and he doubles down on the lie here, but now he won't even name the guy. Come on, Corbell. Call this motherfucker out, and get Mick West on. I know Mick West he wants to do it all polite and stuff, but I can't help myself, man. I've done 20 years of research into this, and my channel's shit banned as a result of this, dude. If Bob Lazar was telling the truth, his story would never be talked about on Joe Rogan or any mainstream channels. It's just pathetic. I will give one credit to Bob Lazar, though, is
in the green room before we started going on. He was very nervous about doing it.
Of course, man. He'd been beat up his whole life about this shit. Also, I gave him McDonald's before. I think his wife was super pissed at me out there.
Oh, did you guys catch that? I have the playback speed on extra fast, so I want to rewind that because that was key and new. That was new key information.
In the green room before we started.
He sounds stoned at half speed.
Very nervous about doing it.
Of course, man. He'd been beat up his whole life about this shit. Also, I gave him McDonald's before. I think his wife was super pissed at me, and I was like, "You give him a salad." No, and he gets really crushed.
See that? That is new information. I ate McDonald's last night for the first time in 15 years, and I have never been so sick in my entire life. And it definitely mentally drains you. McDonald's is pure trash, poison food, and that alone, I give Bob a complete, we'll wipe the slate clean and totally understand. You ate McDonald's. You ate pure poison before you went on Joe Rogan. So let's give Bob Lazar another chance. Give him a salad before he comes on, so he can be healthy and in a good state of mind. No migraine headaches. This is how your body reacts to eating poison. Your mind is a little slower when your mind ingests, poisonous information from, lying snakes. It takes you a little bit longer to sort that out and really get the real information, especially when you've developed, such an attachment to the information, like I believe Corbell has, because it's brought him so much fame and wealth to support the story. You know, people who talk about the real programs and don't and expose Bob Lazar and have done the real research into Bob Lazar. It's not as fun. It's not as fun. It's not as exciting. It's not as cool. I don't know what it is, but for the smart people in the room, we definitely appreciate you know, some real patent numbers, you know, real facts that this thing goes back to 1945, and some of these other things. We have others. I have other stuff on Element 115 that goes even back. Yeah, it's just bad, man. It's pretty bad, dude. And thank you guys for tuning in for sure. We have to get Bob Lazar back on Joe Rogan, and we have to get him on with some skeptics. And man, I would love to get on as a skeptic and talk about some of the stuff, but it would never happen. They would never, like, I swear to God, like, Joe Rogan has his stuff taken. What is knock anyway? $50. Oh yeah, that's like currency they use in Sweden or something, right? But anyways, I'm not attacking Bob Lazar, and I'm reading through some of the comments here. I really, you know, I like Bob Lazar and what, like, he brings a lot of people into this with the idea of wonder and the fact that there could be these programs. But the thing is that there's so much information Bob Lazar revealed, like Site 4, for example, right? So Bob Lazar talks about Site 4. So obviously he had some real information that, and where'd he get that from? Well, he was hanging out with John Lear, same guy that, you know, basically that Corbell was hanging out with John Lear when he was introduced to George Knapp. That's how Corbell got his break. That's how he met George Knapp. Corbell was living with John Lear and staying on John Lear's couch. But John Lear is a guy who he's collected information about all these top secret programs and a lot of disinformation too, because he's easy to fool and he believes just about anything. So as soon as the base found out that John Lear was, you know, out there taking pictures and collecting information and talking about the base on radio and going on George Knapp and doing all that, you best believe that they created some kind of disinformation to go after John Lear and stop him from spreading more information about the base and rumors and stuff, and also prop up maybe the rumors that weren't true, just hiding more of the stuff that was true about the base, like the DRFM technology and all the electronics warfare research and test flight stuff that was going on out there. But John Lear, if you look up John Lear on the record, KLAS 1988, and you look up the UFO TV 1989, I have that other video where they basically, it's a whole documentary with the Falcon, the aviary. They have Richard Doty on talking about Zeta Reticuli and the Bible and the government Bible. It says the government Bible. That was later the name of Bob Lazar's film, UFOs and the Government Bible. So a lot of Bob Lazar's stuff is actually copied from, you know, UFO lore of the history of stuff that came before it, if you really look into it. And George Knapp did this interview with John Lear, basically talked all about the hangar with the UFOs, where they hide this stuff, and all the stuff that Bob Lazar later talked about. And the Site 4 thing is actually a site at Tonopah where they test and they make all the DRFM technology. That's where they test all this enemy radar stuff and make up scale mock-ups of you know, Soviet radar systems. They put Soviet radar equipment on U.S. jets and fly them around and test what they can see and what they can't see and how to trick them. And there's all kinds of electronics research that really goes on out at Area 51 that if you interview the real people that worked out there, you'll find all kinds of information about that, including T.D. Barnes, who I have an interview with on my channel. T.D. Barnes, and that's Barnes. and the other guy is Fred Dunham. Fred Dunham, Area 51. Type in Fred Dunham, Area 51. You'll find a whole interview with him where he basically debunks the Bob Lazar story, comes out with a whole bunch of real information about the base, where he exposes the government. What they did is when Bob Lazar blew up the when Bob Lazar started telling everybody about Area 51, it drew a lot of public's attention to the base. And when the public started looking into the base, the base got really scared, and so they started burning all the evidence of things that they were working on out there that they were worried about maybe getting investigated for. And then they passed a lot of laws to basically secure the laws around the base so that they can burn whatever they want. They can do whatever they want. They're not subject to investigations. The police can't even go. The local police can't, and FBI and other federal investigative agencies, even if they were raping children and doing horrible crimes out here, we couldn't go out there and investigate. Even if Jeffrey Epstein was out there with his whole entourage, and we couldn't send the police or the FBI to go arrest them because they're not subject to laws, the same laws out at the base, and they wouldn't even let the police in there with the security that's out there. So really crazy stuff, which has led to a lot of rumors about aliens being out there and other stuff. But what we don't have any evidence of that scientifically yet. I would love to see that. What we do have to go on is the years of research that have come out of people that have worked on this and stuff that we've looked up through finding out just what the CIA did. They picked a whole cadet of people from the military who all had military background and all had similar interests, boating, and they bought out a whole section of this lake, gave them all houses in the same neighborhood, on the same street, and down the same neighborhood, so that they could all be friends and they'd all hang out together. And they created like this 20-year working relationship with these guys, worked out there for 20, 30 years, and it was all the same crew. And Fred Dunham worked out there and testified that he got sick because he was told to, light this stuff on fire and burn it in these burn pits. And it was the stealth skin coatings for these aircraft, which was made out of toxic barium, strontium, and other toxic heavy metals that they were using to make ferroelectrics and metamaterials as early radar absorption and radar reflective paints. And those types of paints ended up being very deadly, and they didn't want people knowing about it, and they still hushed about it. And there were a bunch of senators that like Senator Cruz, who voted against the bill, made themselves look like complete insensitive jerks, not willing to help out veterans, who were basically cursed for life by what they were exposed to out there. Man, it's horrible what our government does, and then what the media does to the people who tell the truth, because these people are silenced. Well, the people who lie and the people who spread nonsense information are given a front row seat on the biggest podcasts in the world, the biggest shows in the world. And to think that they're not controlled and their guests aren't set up behind the scenes by some hidden unseen hand, it's controlled by someone who's connected to something, it's beyond debate at this point, unless Joe Rogan does a 180 and actually has some skeptics on and has a real debate on Bob Lazar and has I'm gonna reach out to Mick West and I'm gonna be like, Mick, let's team up. Let's, me and you on Joe Rogan, Bob Lazar. Let's get the debate going. Even if he doesn't want me on there, he probably won't, because we disagree about a lot of other stuff and some conspiracies and stuff too. Maybe we'll get Victor or Dan on there, but someone who's a UFO expert on the Bob Lazar case, because I really don't think Mick West is much of an expert on anything really, except maybe that he's good with the cameras and a couple, he might be an expert on a few things, but it's again, no one's a true expert. When you go back to that Veritasium video, because the environment, this environment is always changing, and there's always unseen information that you can't take into account, because you always learn something new. Just like I learned something new. Had no idea that Bob Lazar ate McDonald's right before he went on Joe Rogan. That's completely understandable. I totally was one of those guys, and I apologize for blaming his migraine headache on the fact that he might be, you know, concealing information or misleading people and having trouble with that. And so now that I know he ate McDonald's, it's, well, there you go. I mean, that would give me a migraine headache too. So totally understand. Let's get him on. Let's get him on again for another podcast, and you know, and we'll have it hosted. Let's see if we can get Burger King or Wendy. I'd rather eat Wendy's is probably my favorite if I had to eat fast food. Why don't we get one of these other chains to fund it? And you know, we'll make sure I talk about the fact that, you know, McDonald's is like gross. But that's just my opinion again, and I have a lot of opinions on the Bob Lazar story too. And yeah, Mick West, I don't want to go on there and pretend like I'm buddy with Mick West, because he's really hated by a lot in the UFO community, and I do not want to be. I'm not a pseudo skeptic. I'm not a debunker. I'm a real skeptic, and I'm just a scientist, and I'm really just looking for the actionable intelligence that's on top of the data, that sits on top of the sorted intelligence that sits at the top of that intelligence pyramid, and trying to, you know, figure that stuff out. No one's denying that he's a physicist, but yeah. And then again, so Joe Rogan talks about compartmentalization and how, you know, all the scientists would, you know, they'd have different scientists working on every different thing. How do you then explain why a physicist, supposedly a physicist, was given so much information about the biology of these beings? Because he apparently was given all this information about the size and of them, and all this other information about the aliens. So why would they give him that information? It's not. I mean, if you literally do the research on special access programs and learn what special access programs are about, special access programs would not do that. They just wouldn't. You wouldn't have information that wasn't essential to your job. So if his job was to reverse engineer alien technology, this propulsion system that supposedly used element 115, he would not have been given any access to anything, other information that wasn't completely necessary for him to do his one single job. It would just be a distraction at that point, you know? So it just, and then the other thing is, you go to the timeline, if you do the research, there's the Bob Lazar timeline, which I linked to in the description on otherhand.org right here. And you can go through his timeline. This is all well researched and documented, as far as we know. I'm sure there's more there's more information that could be filled in if we really did the investigation and talked to all his family members and asked the right kinds of questions and stuff. But we know for a fact, we can't ask everyone to know everything that happened, because his first wife, Carol, is dead. So we can't really ask her what happened. But we did ask his second wife what she thought, and she had a lot to say. But it's the most interesting dates are, you know, the years leading right up to when he meets George Knapp and when he becomes Bob Lazar. Rather than Bob Lazar, the photo processor guy who has some electronics background and worked at Los Alamos and was fixing alpha probes when he first met John Lear. He turned into, at some point, the Bob Lazar who was a physicist and a scientist who worked out at Area 51. and saw alien technology and aliens, and was given a debriefing a day alone with a whole bunch of these blue folders that had all this information about the Zeta Reticuli aliens, and where they were from. And he doesn't know how much of it was true, or how much of it he believes, or how much of it he even remembers. But yeah, I don't think he's a physicist, dude, because he doesn't have a. Most physicists who are, if you're a senior, he claimed he was a senior staff physicist out at Area 51, EG&G. So EG&G is the contractor which does all the work, and they hire the physicists to work out at Area 51. EG&G started with some guys out of MIT who were doing high-speed photography, and they needed the high-speed photography technology to film the implosion tests during the Manhattan Project. And so they used this technology, and EG&G became this company and started doing work for the Nevada test site and the Atomic Energy Commission. And then one thing led to another. They got tons of funding, and they became this contractor that just took guys out of MIT and recruited them for top secret jobs at Area 51 and stuff. So it's plausible that maybe like Feynman was recruited out of Area 51 to go work on the Manhattan Project at like age 18 because he was this brilliant young physicist. It's plausible that maybe Bob Lazar was that, but he didn't graduate top of his class. He didn't have exceptional SAT scores or any of these things. And I have the video of him claiming he was a senior staff physicist out at Area 51, dude. Are you serious? Go do your research, man. Please do your research. He claimed he was the senior staff physicist. So if he was a senior staff physicist out at Area 51, he would have what's called a curriculum vitae. Okay? Now, people who aren't physicists and aren't academics aren't familiar with what a curriculum vitae is. Vitae, right? Curriculum vitae is basically a bibliography of all the stuff that you've ever written, all the papers that you've ever published as a scientist. Stuff like that can't be deleted. And there are scientists who go into classified programs, and then the stuff that they publish just becomes, they don't publish it in mainstream journals anymore. They publish the research for a private company, and sometimes that happens. But there would have to be a lot more to Bob Lazar's story. He would have a lot more to say. If he was really coming completely clean, man, he would have had a lot more to say about that whole recruitment process, the people involved, lots of things, man. It's just there's so many elements to the story that when you start digging into it, it screams bullshit. And it's so sad that Joe Rogan just continues to keep having Jeremy Corbell on, but he has the time to have Jeremy Corbell back on the show, but he doesn't have time to research the case at all or do any background history to ask the right questions to really dig in. And he doesn't even have the skeptics on who do know the story to ask these people the right questions. It's disgusting. I've unsubscribed. I don't have any respect for Joe Rogan until he gets some skeptics on or gets some scientists on to debate these people, or get Bob back on with some people to ask him some real questions. For real. All I have to say, I got to go to work now because I actually have to support myself with a real job, unlike these grifters that can just sell fake UFO stories and get propped up by the people in the background, working in the background, who, according to the church committee and all this, Jeremy Corbell talks about this, but he doesn't talk about the fact that they have to be able to claim that they don't do this. So that the way that the CIA does this is they find people like Jeremy Corbell, useful idiots that don't know anything about this stuff, and just overly confident, tough guys to be because Joe Rogan likes him because he claims he's a karate instructor and a jiu-jitsu master, which I claim he isn't. And I've challenged him on that as well. I think he's full of crap. But this guy is poison, just like the McDonald's that Bob Lazar ate is poison to your body. This guy is poison to your brain. He's poisoning a lot of people's brains, and it's disgusting to watch. It's really quite sickening to see a useful idiot like this being propped up. What happens is people like this get $50,000 donations out of nowhere by CIA assets or intelligence assets that prop these people up. They don't have to go to work. They don't have to waste their time on anything but, sitting on the biggest channels and the biggest news networks and spewing nothing but propaganda out of their talking head for the government, and whether they realize it or not. And I don't know, weaponize your stupidity, monetize your gullibility. Have a nice day. It's all a show at the end of the day. If you want the real scoop on Area 51 and some science and technology, there's a lot more than this. It goes way deeper, and we're just scratching the surface. So if you care to donate, care to be involved, man, maybe we'll see you out at Tesla Tech. I don't know. It's going. I want to shout out to Garrett too. You're the man. And I drink Haterade on the regular. Dude, it's all true, man. I'm sorry. People say, "Oh, you're just talking shit, dude." It's like, well, it's shit if it's not true, right? If I'm just slinging mud that's not going to stick, then don't worry. If you're made of Teflon and your house is solid, dude, then you're just gonna go get your garden hose out and your pressure washer and clean up, man. It's just it's an easy sweep. But if you're out here, living in a glass house throwing stones, dude, don't come crying to me when your windows are all broken, bro. You built your entire story on a house of glass, man. It's all lies. It's all transparent and see-through once you look at it from the right angle, buddy. You're welcome for the info. I'm going to be working while I'm away on vacation. I'm gonna get exactly. I'm gonna go I'm gonna try to get Bob Lazar debunked back on BobLazarDebunked.com back online, and I'm gonna try to get AlienScientist.com back online, and we're gonna get some information out, man, to battle this, disinfo, dude. Yeah, you're not even kidding, dude. The bots on Twitter and how they orchestrate it. I wonder if it's all a conspiracy, dude, with these tech overlords who want access to the technology. I don't think they want Elon to get access to. They don't want Elon to be the one who gets a hold of this UFO technology. Which I'm going out to a conference in Silicon Valley in September to talk to a whole bunch of real serious tech entrepreneurs and other people, investors potentially, who are interested in all the UFO technology that's been coming out of these secret programs and has been declassified and is still being declassified through the concerted and continued efforts of my friends and family here on YouTube. You guys right out there, man. Thank you all so much for your help, because you guys go and see the information that we talk about on the show. You write me emails, you give me feedback. You say, hey, I did this for you. Look what I found. And I go and talk about that. And then that leads to something else. And then it sparks another idea. And bro, we get all kinds of people on this show. Just we've interviewed so many scientists, and then we have breakdowns of the interviews that other people have done with scientists, where we have really intelligent and knowledgeable people on to just tear this stuff apart. And yeah, I have sources for pretty much everything, man. Like I said, the facts are May 1989 Scientific American, numerous other sources. If you look on my Twitter account and search for Alien Scientist Element 115, you'll find Alien_Scientist is my Twitter handle. But you can find a lot of posts that I've made about Element 115 and all the research that's been done into that. I got to get it all together, because I have all this research scattered all over the place, and I had it all in one spot on some stuff. I had to fix some stuff up. BobLazarDebunk.com. I'm going to get back online and I'm going to take it to this because they're just going to keep. It's just wash, rinse, and repeat. The news, it's the propaganda news cycle. Wash, rinse, repeat, and then they just have Corbell back on again in a couple months. Don't do any research. Don't ask any new questions. Just, wow, man, let's smoke a cigar. Now it's a cigar. Bro, I'm gonna come on there. We're gonna smoke blunts till your friggin' eyes go Chinese, and sorry, and we're gonna hang out, and I'm gonna teach you some real stuff about Bob Lazar and UFOs and real technology. And well, your eyes go Chinese. I'll show you all the Chinese patents that are out there on all this technology and all the Chinese scientists that are probably decades ahead of us in terms of this technology, bro. So yeah, for real. Oh yeah. Let's smoke a cigar, man. Have a cigar, boy. You're going to go far. You're going to fly high. You're never going to die. You're going to make it if you try. They're going to love you. That's it. Tell you the name of the game, boys. It's called Riding the Gravy Train. And that's all this is about. Tesla Tech, next week, Tuesday, I'm flying out there. Wednesday, I'm going to be presenting my final version of my briefing. This is not it, by the way. It is here. And I'm going to go into some crazy great detail on a whole bunch of cool stuff. And yeah, we'll give you, I'm going to have sources for all this, and I'll give a copy out of the presentation. I was thinking of getting a bunch of flash drives and putting, some important documents on the flash drives as well as the presentation to go along with it for people. But I'm just worried because, man, some of this stuff it's copywritten, so you can get into trouble for sharing the information. If I send this to like my colleagues and stuff, but if I disseminate it publicly to or put it on a database or somewhere, I'll get sued just for sharing, the information. It's not because it's classified, because it's copywritten and it's protected as property, intellectual property of someone who's working on it, or companies that might be leveraging that intellectual property. So no, they did not. Absolutely not. Lazar and Huff are still good friends. Huff is actually had a falling out with Jeremy Corbell. Same with John Lear. John Lear ended up hating Jeremy Corbell by the end of their relationship, and then Lazar actually is not really friendly with Corbell now. So I doubt Lazar is going to go. Lazar is not going to go back on Joe Rogan. I really doubt it, bro. For just some knowledge behind the scenes of what's going on with that. I do not think Lazar will agree to go back on the show because of the way Jeremy Corbell has been handling him and setting up the situation. And I think even that Bob Lazar and Gene Huff have even suggested that, or might believe that, Jeremy Corbell is purposely, misrepresenting the story and stuff because he left out Gene Huff and John Lear completely from his documentary film, didn't talk about them at all. So they're pretty mad about that. And, now even all the key details and people, he says, I claim I have these sources and I talk to these people, but he doesn't even name them anymore and won't come forward with them. So there's no evidence that for any of the claims that he's made about, his source at Area 51, this Mike Thigpen guy. It's completely fabricated. Said he found the guy on Facebook. He's not on Facebook, dude. Like, I can't find him on Facebook. Like, people like that in those type of positions are forbidden from having social media accounts. You can't even have a social media account if you're a police officer. You're not allowed to. You're not supposed to. At least a lot of people do under a different name or something, but yeah, they won't let you. So it's like, this guy does not have Facebook. He never would, never did, for one. Number two, you didn't find him. You made that up. There's no proof. There's no recording of the interview. There's no, it's ridiculous. So they did not have a falling out, but Lazar is pretty pissed off at, actually, he's pissed off at Corbell about the way Corbell portrayed a lot of things in the documentary, and the way Corbell handled a lot of things in the interviews and the shows, where he took over like a lot of stuff. I don't know. So this is, maybe he's just playing that as a dynamic to hide behind. I don't know, but I really don't believe Bob. I don't think that if he did work out there, the only way that he did is if they hired him as a disinformation agent against John Lear, that they knew that, John Lear was looking for information on the base, and Bob Lazar went out there to go apply for a job at EG&G. They didn't do an 8-month background check on Bob Lazar. That's typical. Like, normally a background check on someone takes about 8 months. It takes a long time for them to do a background check. That was not the case with Bob Lazar. From the time he applied at EG&G, according to his interviews transcripts and the timeline, go through this, there's not a long enough time for them to do a background check from the time that he applied to EG&G, from the time that he said he started working out there in December of 1989, which, by the way, Area 51 shuts down for Christmas break. That it's closed throughout the whole Christmas holiday and pretty much through December. And that was talked about in the Fred Dunham interview, as well as a number of other interviews, like T.D. Barnes talks about that. When is the base? I asked him about that as well, I believe, in the interview that I did with T.D. Barnes. I want to get Fred Dunham on if he's still alive, man. This guy's my hero. I'm going to try and reach out to that dude and try to get him on and for an interview. John Lear, of course, is no longer with us, passed away. And with a lot of his documents comes a letter that I know is, in fact, in his estate and belongs to someone who has a number of documents from John Lear's estate. And I'm asking that person, not publicly, I'm not going to name them. They might come on my show. They might have been on my show in the past. But I'm going to ask them, please release the document on John Lear that exposes the whole Bob Lazar thing, where they wrote to, I want the letter from John Lear to John Andrews of Testers Corporation that I was shown a copy of, but not allowed to keep, or I was briefly shown a copy of this. And he was saying that, they're basically like, there's money involved and that it's all for money, and that I don't know. I know there's a document out there exposing some interesting things about the case and Bob Lazar and some of the things that were going on behind the scenes with John Lear. So basically, either they set up Bob Lazar as this guy to sell the whole story through George Knapp, because they met Bob Lazar, they knew he could sell the story. He's the perfect actor. He's the perfect role to cast for the staff physicist. He plays the part so well, and he's rehearsed the script quite well too, because his story hasn't changed. But the fact is that if he went out to work at Area 51, Bob Lazar, they would have hired him at EG&G, done a quick background check, realized, oh, this guy knows John Lear, and they're up to something here. Now, who's to say the best case scenario I can see, there's no way that they were like, no, we didn't know that he knew John Lear. We didn't know that he went to and did an appraisal with Gene Huff at his house and been talking to him and getting information about the base. We had no idea. And we just accidentally hired this guy who came from Pierce Junior College and had a little bit of background in electronics technician. We just accidentally hired him because he said he was a physicist and had degrees from Caltech and MIT, lied on his resume, and we accidentally hired the guy to go work out here. So let's say that maybe did happen. Is that as likely as the case that maybe, they said, oh, hey, this guy's trying to get a job at the base and he's lying on his resume. He knows John Lear. Why don't we get some of these blue folders here from, our U.S. Air Force Special Agent Officer in charge, Mr. Richard Doughty, over there at the OSI, Office of Special Investigations. We'll put together some of these blue folders with all that information on that alien technology and the Zeta Reticuli, and we'll throw in some stuff about the Element 115. Yeah, and Mick West thinks he's doing the right thing. He's not a shill, dude. He's got to, he really, come on, just stop with the name calling and stuff. Let's have a debate over the evidence and stay away from the ad hominems, dude. I can call a Jeremey Corbell a lot of names, but I'm not going to, dude. So there's nothing. The shill's just it's a stupid word. It just means you run out of arguments, or your arguments have reached a dead end. You need to come up with some better, more actionable intelligence or move on. So, in any case, Bob Lazar is not giving us any real actionable intelligence. I don't know what was inside those blue folders that he was supposedly given by these people, but on his debriefing. But maybe, just maybe, this was some U.S. Air Force disinformation ploy, like a Richard Doty type campaign. They were like, dude, we're going to poison John Lear's water hole real quick. Watch this. So that's another thing that could have happened with the Bob Lazar story. Yeah, we'll bring him out to the base. We'll drive him around Area 51 in this blacked out bus. Yeah, just drive him around for an hour. We'll bring him to a couple hangars, show him a bunch of stuff, and then we'll send him back. And of course he's going to blab, and then the whole story gets out. We got our seed planted. Boom, done. And he believes it all. Of course, he's not lying. He can pass lie detector tests. All that would check out if that's really what's going on. Man, how would that be if that was really what the real Bob Lazar story? That he met John Lear, Gene Huff started learning about all this stuff, and then got out, went out there to apply at the base, faked his resume, said he was this and that, and then it turns out that boom, they bring him out there and they pretend to hire him, or they do hire him, but it's just for a disinformation campaign to bring him out there for a couple weeks in December when the base is all closed down. There's no one else there. Nothing really. There's nothing going on there. And they just bring him around, show him a whole bunch of crap, and feed him a bunch of folders with disinformation, and drive him around in a bus, and make him walk past a couple hangars with some VZ9 Avro cars and a couple other relics from the Air Force loading museum, Alfred loading. So the VZ9 Avro car was, of course, this U.S. Air Force prototype that was built by a Canadian company called the Avro car. And then Alfred C. Loeding was a dude who worked for the U.S. Air Force and was super interested in UFOs. And he was an engineer, and he developed all these saucer-shaped aircraft. Yeah, this is the dude right here, Alfred Loading. And he was not a scientist, just like an engineer and a builder kind of artist kind of dude. And he just built a whole bunch of saucer-shaped craft and small prototypes, and patented them and brought them over to test in wind tunnels at U.S. Air Force Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where they had a really nice wind tunnel and a setup for testing aircraft wings and wing design and all this other stuff. So, he just, so I think that might be part of the wind tunnel. I'm not sure. Or maybe I don't know what that is. That's really cool, though. Let's find out. But Alfred Loading, so they might have a hangar somewhere with all these old, prototypes. They could have just brought them to like a one spot, loaded up 9 of these saucer-shaped craft in this hangar, and then, brought Bob there over Christmas vacation and shown him through the place and told him a bunch of stuff so that he'd go running back to John Lear, who would send him right to George Knapp on KLS to blow this story up to the world. And that would only be the case if they, that would only be the case if they wanted to blow up the story of Area 51, right? So that whole narrative falls apart because if they wanted to expose Area 51, they wouldn't have done the burn pit. They would have already gotten rid of all that stuff. and it wouldn't have been the massive effort to cover up all this stuff where they burned all the crap out at Area 51 and got Fred Dunham and all those people sick, right? So there wouldn't have been that panic by the military when the base started getting exposed and started, getting lots of attention to it. But anyways, I got to get to work, dude. It's been an hour. I didn't want to go this long. I originally wanted to go 15 minutes and stuff, but to see Corbell lying out his teeth on Joe Rogan again, and I just wanted to show people that. And I'm gonna go listen to the full interview. I hate Spotify, so I just don't want to get a Spotify account. I don't want to do this, and I don't even want to subject my 3 hours and 2 minutes of this blathering idiot just spreading disinformation and nonsense crap that he doesn't know. He doesn't do research. He doesn't I can't imagine what he talked about for 3 hours with Joe Rogan that is entertaining enough to keep him on. Like, please. Should I go listen to it? Please, someone go through it. If someone has the time to listen to it and go through and collect any of the tidbits, please be on the lookout. Just anything actionable, anything scientific, anything new about the Bob Lazar case, any claims, just make a compilation and post it so we can see. Because what I've seen here in this 14-minute video is that he's still doubling down on the lie that he interviewed Mike Thigpen and that Mike Thigpen confirmed the story and that he met Mike Thigpen through Facebook. But now he won't even mention Mike Thigpen's name. He says, oh, this source, this guy, but I know that's who he's talking about. Now he won't even say the guy's name. Why not? Because you're a fraud, dude. You're lying through your teeth. Scammer. Anyways, peace out, UFO community. Help me expose these frauds and show the real science and the real scientists. We are winning the war against the UFO disinformation campaign being waged by the Pentagon, the CIA, and other evil sources within the government. You will lose. You may have control over massive amounts of media and the ability to control the algorithm to down my shows and boost up, how can I compete with 700,000 views in the last 2 days on a video like this? I can't. But what I can do is that, a lie will make it around the world 4 times before the truth has times to put its shoes on. So the truth will catch up. A lie has speed, but the truth has endurance. So I will come out on top, man. These con mans will not last forever. I think Joe Rogan can continue to do these types of interviews with Jeremey Corbell and keep propping up the, Bob Lazar fraud story without digging deeper or doing something more on this. It's either going to fade away or it's going, or it needs to climax in some kind of debate or finale, man. It's just needs to get Bob back on and do a debate. And I doubt Bob will do it, especially if he knows that I'm involved or other people are involved. I've been trying to reach through Gene Huff to get a hold of Bob to, tell maybe another side of the Bob Lazar story and do like this whole run through an investigation. But again, every thought scenario and every time I go through it, it just looks like Bob made the story up, and I don't know if it was on purpose as part of a disinformation campaign or what the real deal is, man. But I want to really talk to Bob in private and know, because I don't think that we have the whole truth. I think that what he talks about and says is he's reading from a well-memorized script. And I think that there's something more going on here and behind the scenes. And I don't want to say it because it's just me being a paranoid, and I've gotten called out for that. Saying that, I think in the back of my mind, I can't voice my opinion that I think that Corbell, Joe Murgia, that idiot on UFO Twitter, who's a complete moron, said something about me. I claim that Jeremey Corbell, an old tweet I made, he just continues to bring it up because I brought up. This guy was a jiu-jitsu instructor and experts in martial arts and master, and he worked as a maintenance man at his parents' apartment complex out in California. And suddenly he became a UFO expert and got equipment and fun and some ability to make these documentaries, right? this is not, have you ever tried to put together a documentary and do this yourself? Have you? It takes like a team of people. There's no way that you can do this all by yourself. He's got like there's other people propping him up and working with him behind the scenes. Don't know all of who they are, but I would be very well bet that he was picked for certain reasons. And I think it's through his association with John Lear as a former CIA pilot. John Lear has been involved with disinformation for the past 20 years. And that connection alone makes me suspicious, because that's John Lear's the one who introduced him to George Knapp. And I don't trust any of them. And I get called out for that. People are like, oh, George Knapp's an award-winning journalist, dude. So what if you win awards, dude? You know what? Gary Webb was a good journalist too. You know what award he won for exposing the CIA's drug trafficking campaign in Nicaragua and South Central LA, the pipeline with Danilo Blandon? Yeah, you know the award he got, the Medal of Honor? He got 2 gunshots to the back of his head in a suicide, right? So those are the type of journalists that I have respect for, okay? And that's all there is to it, man. People expose real CIA crap and real Pentagon shit. And you're not one, dude. Don't fool people, dude. You're monetizing people's gullibility, and I don't have any respect for you, dude. Till you debate me in a real debate. Get on, just stop, just shut up. We're gonna find out where he's speaking at the next conference, and I'm going to go there and make sure that I can directly ask him questions, because this guy will lose his wig. He will not be able to handle himself, dude. That's why I challenged him, like, yo, put the debate on and then like cage match afterwards, so he can try to get his fat aggression out on me. And I would love to show him a tune-up, because he's not a martial arts master. He's not a UFO expert. This man is a fraud. This man lies about his entire past and everything about who he is, dude, and everything he's done. He has not spent the last 20 years, staying up till 3 a.m. reading physics papers every night. He's not the guy, dude. Not the dude we should be giving a microphone to. Thank you all. Lazar has changed his story. Go ask him any of the questions. Go read the timeline. Like, go look at the article on here, looking at the Bob Lazar story from the perspective of 2018. You can go through that. He's changed a number of things on his story. He changed his story about the emitter, and that he added a dial that you have to turn the machine off before you can take the lid off, because someone pointed out, well, if the thing repels gravity, how do you get your hands near it to take the lid off? You have to shut it off first, right? So he changed his story to add that detail. There's a whole bunch of things he's changed his story on, dude. I'm gonna get Bob Lazar debunked back on .com back online with a whole list of stuff. We had a whole playlist of videos that expose all the lies in the Bob Lazar story. I had an entire playlist that I made, and we used to post it around everywhere, and it was getting so much attention and traction that Corbell and Knapp, I think it was Corbell and his people, went through and they counterfeit striked every single video that was on that playlist and got them all removed and taken down off YouTube. These guys are pathetic. They're shills. If there ever was a shill, people want to call Mick West a shill. No, Mick West is, I would give Mick West a hug before I would break bread with Mick West, and before I would hang out with any of these people. These people deleted all the whole playlist and got it all banned from YouTube. All the old Bob Lazar clips like that we found all the contradictions and lies in his story. The times he's changed his story, all the compilations of that stuff. People made videos of this years ago, taking all the Bob Lazar stuff and clipping it up and showing like how the story changed a little bit each time, and analyzing that. You can watch the behavior panel experts. So if you look up Bob Lazar behavior panel, those words will come back with this video. Yeah, this body language panel, the behavior panel. everyone should watch this video if they really think that Bob Lazar is telling the truth. These guys are experts in deception, and they also got some research on the case, actually, as you know. And I sent them a bunch of stuff too. I send all these anytime I see people who looking into this case. I try to show them the information and help them, like, you know, hey, look, this guy, you know, there's real scientists who actually worked on these top secret projects all over, and I can name them, and we can talk about the real projects in depth and the physics about them. And I would love to, you know, educate these audiences on real science if they're interested in learning that stuff. It's really technical and not for everyone, but if people want to learn it, they can learn real stuff. They don't have to, you know, just sit there down a rabbit hole chasing element 115 into a distant oblivion, like Jeremey Corbell, the liar, would have you do. So watch this behavior panel. These guys are experts in spotting lies, and then they'll show you the real deal. There's a lot of CIA propped up disinformation that keeps repeating the same mantra, the same narrative that, oh, he's never changed his story. He's so truthful, and he does look very truthful. But these guys will tell you how it works and how he's doing it. Because when you really dig into all the stuff he said, there's numerous cases of him lying, from, you know, when he was asked to name his professors from Caltech and MIT, and he couldn't. He instead named his high school science teacher, Hosenfelter, and his Pierce Junior College technical professor, Dr. Duxler. So that's all on record. It's all out there, and it's all provable, documented fact. And Mike Thigpen, the supposed Krangle interview, and all the sources that Jeremey liar Corbell has used to sell his fake crap disinformation stories, there's absolutely zero evidence to back up those claims. Yet people attack me and they're like, dude, you know, why don't you back up your claims? Dude, all my claims are sourced and backed up. I don't talk out my neck, dude. I'm not a shit talker. I might, you know, bash people and say things about them, but it's all they deserve it, dude. I'm not gonna like sit here and just badmouth people for nothing. Thank you, Babs, for the $20 super chat. That is awesome. Thank you so much. Already made my hour worth it. I made $20. I made $20 plus a little bit of knock. I don't know how much that translates to, but not bad. At least pay me for the hour I missed of work this morning. But I really got to go, and I really got to get this crap done, because I'm going to Albuquerque on Tuesday, and I'm not going to leave these people without a kitchen. So, yeah, if Thigpen's a real person, you can at least get acknowledgement through the FBI or Scotland castles. Yes, it's called FOIA requests. We've already done them, and people have already done this research, man. It's like 30-year-old case, dude. You're have a nice day, you guys. It's 2022, 21. I don't know when the next APEC is, but I'm going to be broadcasting a whole bunch of stuff from Tesla Tech, including my presentation, which is pretty much just as good as APEC. And tune into Tim Ventura's channel and check out all the interviews he's doing too, if you're bored and looking for content in the meantime. So thank you all. Let's just keep the hope alive. It's frustrating, but some of us do understand the science and get the science and want the real deal, and are happy and grateful for people like me who are actually exposing the bullshit, not just, you know, claiming things. You know, I don't know. I maybe people want that. Maybe some people like that. But not you guys. You guys are cool. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this, and you guys are awesome. I love you all, and have a great day. You guys, I couldn't ask for a better audience and YouTube family. Weird Science rules. Catch you soon. Peace out.